The house smelled of fresh rice and fabric softener. It was early morning, but Mrs. Kim had already been awake for hours. She had cooked breakfast, ironed 3 shirts, dusted every shelf in Taehyung's study, and was now on her knees scrubbing a corner of the living room the maids had missed. The 2 maids stood nearby, embarrassed. Maid 1 softly, "Madam, please let us handle this." "That's what we are hired for," Mrs. Kim without looking up. "You don't know how dust hides." "My son has allergies. If even a little bit stays, he could cough at night." "Will you take responsibility for that?" They exchanged glances and fell silent. Everyone in this house knew Mrs. Kim never allowed anyone else to do Taehyung's personal chores. She washed his clothes herself, even if the washing machine was running. She ironed every shirt, pressing the collars sharp and folding the sleeves just the way he liked when he was a boy. She cooked every meal, even though a chef was on call. The maids were left with side work dishwashing, sweeping, polishing floors. Her world was simple. Her son came first, and everything else second. When Taehyung walked downstairs that morning, tall and dressed in a crisp white shirt, his mother's eyes lit up the way they always had. He was no longer the skinny boy she had carried to kindergarten on rainy days. He was 31 now, the CEO of a company he had built from scratch at 19 with her encouragement. The business was so successful they could live easily mansions, cars, vacations if they wanted. But for Mrs. Kim, those things meant nothing. She only cared that her son was eating well, dressing neat, and sleeping on time. "Taehyung, please, you don't have to iron my clothes anymore. The maids can handle it." Mrs. Kim smiling as she poured soup into his bowl. "The day I stop, I will stop breathing." "Until then, let me do it." He sighed but said nothing. He knew she would never change. His love for her was endless, born out of gratitude for all her sacrifices. But sometimes he wished she would rest. At breakfast, she served him food like he was still a child. She picked out fish bones before placing the soft flesh in his bowl. She cooled his soup with a spoon before letting him taste. The maids pretended not to watch, but Taehyung noticed and flushed with quiet embarrassment. "Taehyung, I'm not a kid anymore," Mrs. Kim with a soft laugh. "To me, you will always be the baby I carried when the world had turned its back on us." Her words silenced him every time, because he remembered his father leaving before he was even born, his mother working 3 jobs to keep food on the table, her hands raw and blistered from sewing and scrubbing. She had raised him alone, when even her own family had abandoned her. So how could he tell her no? He ate quietly, letting her fuss over him, letting her serve and wipe and clean. This was their routine, their life. A mother who never remarried, never thought of herself, only of her son. And a son who loved her deeply, even when her love felt like chains. What Taehyung didn't know yet was that soon, someone else would enter his world. Someone who would make his heart beat differently. Someone his mother might never accept, and that was where the cracks would begin. If Taehyung's mornings began with the smell of seaweed soup and pressed colors, your mornings were the exact opposite. At 10 a.m., your alarm buzzed for the 3rd time. You groaned, pulled the blanket over your head, and kicked your legs around until the noise finally stopped. From the kitchen came the sound of pots clanging and Myra's voice shouting, "Myra, YN? If you don't wake up now, I swear I'll dump cold water on you." You rolled to the other side of the bed. "YN half asleep, 5 more minutes, Myra." Freelancers don't have to follow office hours. Myra stormed into the room, hair tied up messily, holding a frying pan like a weapon. "Myra, freelancers still have to eat breakfast and clean their share of the house. You didn't even wash last night's dishes." You peeked from under the blanket. Sheepish, "YN, I'll wash them after lunch." "Promise, Myra, that's what you said yesterday and the day before." You laughed, rolling out of bed at last. Your life wasn't perfect, but it was comfortable in its own way. After losing your parents 4 years ago in a plane crash, you had felt like your entire world collapsed. You were only 22, and every relative who should have stood by you turned into snakes pretending to care but waiting for a chance to take what little your parents had left behind. You cut ties, you chose peace, and Myra had been your savior. Myra wasn't just a best friend, she was family. She let you move in with her when you had nowhere to go. Together you built a little two-bedroom apartment into your own world. She worked a regular job, steady and dependable, while you picked up freelance projects, graphic design, copywriting, sometimes online tutoring. You hated the idea of a fixed 9-to-5 routine. Freedom suited you better, even if it meant working odd hours or staying up late. The two of you were different as night and day, but that's what made you click. Like sisters, you fought about silly things: laundry, who finished the ice cream, or whose turn it was to buy groceries. But behind the bickering was love so solid that neither of you doubted it for a second. That morning was no different. You dragged yourself into the kitchen, hair messy, yawning like a bear. YN, what's for breakfast? Myra glaring. What do you mean, what's for breakfast? I made omelets. You were supposed to cut the salad. YN, eps, sorry, I'll cut it now. You grabbed a cucumber and knife, moving lazily, while Myra watched you with narrowed eyes. Myra, at this rate, if you get married, your husband will starve. YN snorting. Then I'll find someone who loves takeout as much as me. Both of you burst into laughter, the sound echoing in the small kitchen. Your life wasn't perfect, but it was yours, messy, fun, and filled with love in a different shape. You had no idea that fate was about to twist. That your path would cross with a man raised by love so different from yours, a love that gave everything, yet took away space to breathe. And that meeting would change everything. It was Friday night, and Myra was curled up on the couch with her phone, giggling like a teenager. You were in your room working on a last-minute freelance project, so you didn't notice when she slipped out for a late coffee date. At the cafe, Hyman was already waiting. His smile was as bright as ever, dimples deep, when he waved her over. Hyman, my Myra, finally free from your 9-to-5 prison. Myra rolling her eyes but smiling. At least I work like a normal human. Not like some people I know who spend half their day laughing in their best friend's office. Myra chuckled, sipping her coffee. Myra, sounds like me with YN. Honestly, sometimes I think she'd forget to eat if I didn't nag her. She hides behind her freelancer freedom, but she's just lazy. Hyman, exactly like Tae. He hides behind his CEO stress, but really, he just avoids love life and lives with his mom's rules. They both laughed at the same time. Myra, wow. Our besties are hopeless. Hyman, hopeless. Completely. A pause. Their eyes met, and Myra tilted her head. Myra, you know, they're both hopeless. Maybe they need each other. Hyman leaned back in his chair, grinning mischievously. Hyman, aha, finally, you read my mind. I was just thinking, why not set them up? Double date, you and me, plus them. Myra blinked, then slowly started to smile. Myra, you mean YN and Taehyung? Hyman, yes. Listen, both of them are stubborn but kind. YN needs someone steady, and Tae needs someone who's not afraid to speak up. Boom, perfect balance. Myra thought about it, imagining you with a man like Taehyung. You had been alone for so long, pushing away toxic relatives, burying your pain with work and jokes. And Taehyung, from what Hyman described, he was successful but lonely, trapped in his mother's care. Myra grinning, honestly, that might actually work. They both need saving, in different ways. Hyun pointing a finger gun at her, exactly. And who better to save them than us, the genius matchmakers? They high-fived across the table, laughing. Myra, so how do we do it? We can't just tell them straight. Hyun, of course not. Tae would refuse instantly, and YN would kill me if she knew. We trick them. Myra eyes wide with excitement. Trick them. Hyun smirking. We plan a double date. Tell Tae we're hanging out with you. Tell YN we're hanging out with me. Then boom, they're stuck together. Myra covered her mouth, laughing. Myra, that's evil. I like it. Hyun, it's not evil, it's destiny. They just need a push. They clinked coffee cups together like partners in crime. Myra, Operation Bestie Love Life. Approved. Hyun, mission starts soon. Let's pray they don't murder us. They laughed again, already plotting how to bring you and Taehyung face to face. Neither of you knew that your best friends were conspiring behind your back, writing the first page of a story that would change your lives forever. The cafe was cozy, with warm lights and soft music in the background. But for you, YN, it felt like a trap. You sat stiffly across from a stranger, tall, sharp features, expensive suit, calm aura, KIMTAEHYUNG. Myra had dragged you here, insisting it was just coffee with friends. But now Myra was at another table with Hyun, laughing like she was in her own world, barely glancing at you. Across from you, Taehyung sat just as stiff, hands folded on the table. He shot a look at Hyun, who was busy whispering something in Myra's ear. Tae muttering, he's dead when I get home. YN muttering back, she's dead when we get home. You both blinked, realizing you had spoken at the same time. For the first time, a smile tugged at both of your lips. The awkward silence cracked. YN clearing your throat, so they set us up. Tae sighing, obviously, Hyun thinks he's a genius. He probably believes this is fate or something. YN snorting, Myra said the same thing. You both glanced toward the other table where your so-called best friends were giggling, feeding each other fries. You rolled your eyes. Taehyung shook his head. Tae, they're unbelievable. YN, unbelievably annoying. Laughter spilled out of both of you at the same time. The tension eased, shoulders relaxed, and suddenly the air didn't feel so heavy anymore. A waiter came by, placing drinks in front of you. You sipped your iced latte while he stirred his Americano. For a few minutes, the silence between you wasn't awkward, it was curious, Tae leaning slightly forward. So, YN? What do you do? YN, I'm a freelancer. Mostly design and writing work, basically. I avoid anything that requires waking up at 7 a.m. YN softly, Myra said you're close to your mom. Tae instantly smiling, she's my whole world. Everything I am today is because of her. The way his voice softened when he spoke about his mom made you pause. It was different from most men you had met. He wasn't ashamed of loving his mother deeply, he was proud of it. That respect touched you. That's really rare. I like that. Tae curious. And you, family. Your chest tightened for a second, but you answered calmly. I lost my parents 4 years ago. Plane crash. Since then. Myra is my family. Tae quietly, sincere. I'm sorry. That must have been hard. YN smiling faintly. It was, but she saved me. Without her, I don't think I'd have managed. For a moment, your eyes met. And there was no awkwardness, just understanding. Two people with different pasts, both carrying love and loss in their own ways. From the other table, Myra and Hyun stole glances at you too, hiding their grins behind cups. Myra whispering, look at them. They're actually talking, Hyun grinning. I told you, perfect match. Just give them time. Back at your table, Taehyung suddenly smirked. Tae, so should we play along, pretend this is a date so they don't feel like failures? YN grinning back, only if you promise not to be boring, Tae teasing. I'm never boring. You raised a brow playfully. YN. We'll see about that. And just like that, what started as an awkward setup began to shift into something real, something neither of you expected but both of you secretly started to enjoy. It was Sunday evening, and the smell of sesame wool filled the living room. Taehyung sat cross-legged on the floor, head tilted slightly forward, while his mother massaged warm oil into his scalp. It was their routine, one she never skipped no matter how busy life got. Her hands moved gently, formed circles against his temples, soft strokes down to his neck. Tae closed his eyes, relaxing into it. Tae softly, Yama. You know Myra, right? Hyun's girlfriend. Mrs. Kim smiling as her fingers worked through his hair. Yes, of course. Sweet girl. Hyun talks about her like she hung the moon. Tae chuckled. Tae. Well, Myra has a best friend. Her name's YN. Hyun and Myra made us all meet last week. Honestly, I thought it would be awkward, but it wasn't. She's funny, a little stubborn, but easy to talk to. For the smallest moment, Mrs. Kim's hands stilled. The smile on her lips didn't fade, but her eyes lost their warmth for just a second. She quickly recovered, pressing her thumb gently against Tae's scalp, pretending nothing had happened. Mrs. Kim pleasantly, oh, that's good. It must be nice. Having someone new to talk to outside of work, Tae smiling to himself, yeah. It was refreshing. She's different, not like the usual people at business dinners. She didn't treat me like CEO Kim, just... Mrs. Kim tilted her head, humming softly. Mrs. Kim, sounds interesting. She smoothed all down the length of his hair, fingers steady, her face perfectly calm. But inside, her chest tightened. She remembered the last time she had shared him with someone, kindergarten teachers, classmates, even relatives who had abandoned her but later came asking for favors. Every time, she had fought to keep him hers. Now another girl, another name, another risk. Tae relaxing under her touch, eyes closed. She even scolded me a little. Said I looked too serious. Can you believe that? No one talks to me like that. Mrs. Kim with a soft laugh, masking the unease. Then maybe she's brave. Tae smiling, brave, yeah, I like that. Mrs. Kim's smile widened, but her eyes were distant. She bent forward slightly, planting a soft kiss on the crown of his head like she always did. Mrs. Kim softly, as long as you're happy, Tae. Her words were sweet, her tone gentle, but the pressure of her fingers against his scalp grew firmer, almost protective. Tae didn't notice. He just leaned into her touch, unaware of the silent storm beginning to form behind his mother's carefully painted smile. The first few days after that double date, YN and Taehyung hadn't planned to meet again. But fate, or maybe their best friend's mischievous plotting, kept pushing them together. At first, it was casual, a shared coffee on Myra's insistence. A quick lunch when Hyun dragged Tae along. But slowly, the excuses weren't needed anymore. Tae's deep voice would hum softly through the receiver while YN lay sprawled across her bed, Myra snoring in the other room. YN yawning, you seriously work till this late every night? Tae soft chuckle, I'm used to it. But lately, I don't mind staying awake. Gives me a reason to call you. YN teasing, so I'm your caffeine now. Tae grinning, voice low, something like that, and when silence fell between them, it wasn't uncomfortable. Just the quiet sound of two people breathing on opposite ends of the line, unwilling to hang up first. It started with simple things, walking side by side in a park on Sunday mornings, sharing ice cream despite the chilly weather. Once, YN dragged Tae into a bookstore, laughing when he secretly bought the novel she was eyeing, but pretending he hadn't. YN playful glare, you didn't have to. Tae shrugging, hiding a smile. I wanted to. Another time, Tae brought her to a quiet rooftop cafe where he loved to sit alone. But this time, he wasn't alone. He watched YN sip hot chocolate, the glow of fairy lights reflecting in her eyes, and thought to himself how right it felt. At home, Tae never mentioned YN again, not once. His mother would sometimes glance at him while he scrolled through his phone at midnight, smiling faintly at the screen. She never asked, and he never told. In her heart, Mrs. Kim thought it was just a fleeting phase. That YN had already disappeared from her son's life. The danger was gone. So she kept cooking his meals, ironing his shirts, massaging his hair on Sundays, unaware that while she breathed in the comfort of routine, her son's heart was slowly finding a new rhythm. It was a chilly evening, the kind that made the city lights feel warmer than the air. Taehyung and In were walking back from yet another not-a-date date, though both knew it was far more than that now. They stopped at the riverside, where the soft ripples shimmered under the street lamps. YN hugged her coat tighter, while Tae slipped his hands into his pockets, stealing glances at her. YN playfully, "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Do I have something on my face?" Tae smiling, shaking his head. "No?" "Just trying to figure out how you did it." YN raising a brow. "Did what?" Tae serious now, voice low. "How you walked into my life and made it feel lighter, happier, like I was waiting for you without knowing it." YN blinked, caught off guard. Her heart thudded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. YN softly, teasing to hide nerves. "That sounds dangerously close to a confession." KIMTAEHYUNG, Tae finally looking straight into her eyes. "It is." In, "You're really bad at hiding your feelings. You know that." Tae grinning, relief in his eyes. "So that means you feel the same." YN nodding, "I do." Without overthinking, Tae reached out and wrapped his fingers around hers, warm and secure against the cold night. Neither of them needed more words. That simple touch said it all. At home that night, Tae fell asleep with his phone clutched in his hand, YN's goodnight text still glowing on the screen. Meanwhile, Mrs. Kim smiled to herself as she folded his freshly ironed shirts, convinced her son's world still revolved around her alone.